Section 1. You will hear two students, Peter and Mary, discussing their new eating plan. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Okay, Mary. I know I'm putting on weight with all my bad eating habits.
That's right. Chocolate bars, pizzas, and all washed down with litres of soft drink. And with all the sugar in soft drink, I think we can say you're definitely overindulging, don't you think?
Peter consumes far too much soft drink, so soft drink has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Okay, Mary. I know I'm putting on weight with all my bad eating habits.
That's right. Chocolate bars, pizzas, and all washed down with litres of soft drink. And with all the sugar in soft drink, I think we can say you're definitely overindulging, don't you think?
I know. I intend to definitely stop drinking that from now on.
And that's part of the sensible eating plan that we have agreed we need to formulate. One that we can both follow.
That's right. Sensible and practical. Allowing us to indulge in some sweet foods on occasions.
On rare occasions. And we're going to cut out all the pizzas and hamburgers.
Well, not totally. I thought you said pizzas could be eaten once a week. You know how I like pizzas.
No, I said once every 2 months. Once a week was ice cream, not pizza.
Yeah, that's because you like ice cream. I prefer pizza.
Peter, if you want to lose weight, you need to be disciplined in both what you eat and what you do, which brings us to the issue of exercise.
That's right. So, jogging twice a week and hiking on Saturdays, right?
No, hiking is Sundays, allowing Saturdays for the light walking exercise. I've investigated and discovered there are a lot of walking trails around this suburb, with many beautiful places if you just look around.
So what's happening this Saturday? A walk around the city?
That's later in the month. This Saturday we'll visit Pine Park.
Hill Park is nicer, with great views too.
Yes, but we have to travel too far to reach Hill Park, so I ruled that out, and I love the smell of pines.
And what about the weekday meals? Salads every night, I suppose.
No, it's important to vary the meals so that the food remains interesting and fun. The only common factor is the fruit juice, but otherwise we'll have a variety of healthy fare, from salads to fish to lean meat.
I'd rather have meat every night, but you're the boss.
If you want to lose weight, you'll have to accept this program, okay?
Okay.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, Mary, you said we could have a little treat in our diet plan 3 times a week, specifically Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays.
Yes, a very small treat, but something to reward us for all the discipline shown. Such rewards will motivate us to continue the diet.
So on Tuesdays, what can I choose?
You have a choice between a small serving of chocolate, ice cream or biscuits.
Okay, well, I'll go for the biscuits. I love those crunchy little things with my cup of tea. So do you, right?
I do indeed, so I'll have them too, saving the ice cream for later.
But I know how much you like ice cream, so why don't you save it for the end of the week? That will give you the motivation to keep going, and you can have chocolate midweek.
That's a good idea, but I think the most important thing is for you and I to eat different things on those other 2 days.
Well, if you think that way, I'll eat the ice cream on Thursdays, not the chocolate, okay?
Well, if you're having that, then I can't have ice cream. In order to be different, I'll have the chocolate.
So we can compare our different snacks, and maybe even share a little with each other.
Exactly. And the variety and fun involved will take our minds off wanting more.
Eating for fun. A good idea.
And then you can have the chocolate on Sunday, right?
But I like biscuits. Actually, I want biscuits again to have with my cup of tea.
But you have the biscuits on Monday, remember? And we can't repeat.
Oh, come on. This isn't fixed in concrete. I can have them again instead of chocolate. You might like variety, but I don't. I'm a creature of habit.
Well, the whole point of this was to taste different snacks. But if you want the same thing, okay. I, for one, am sticking to the original plan, with ice cream to finish the week and not another dose of chocolate.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2.
Section 2. You will hear two students called Mark and Gina asking their tutor for advice on the extracurricular project. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hi Mark. Hi Gina. What can I help you with?
So we were hoping you could help us with this extracurricular project.
Sure. What is the topic?
Attending business school.
This sounds like a great idea. So you're going to explain the requirements for getting into business school?
Not exactly. It will be more broadly about the experience, the academics, accommodation, and social experience that comes with being part of the business school.
I see. So would your audience be the general public?
Well, we would probably want more to focus on members of the institution. We would especially like to reach individual applicants to the business school.
I see. Now, what form will this information be? You could give a talk to all the summer courses. All you'd need is permission from the course director. Or you could pass out information outside the student union.
Those are both good ideas. What about sending out pamphlets in the mail?
Most college students never check their mail. Maybe you could make a video and show it on campus.
That's a great idea. We'll do the video.
Great. And as members of the business school, do you have an incentive to attract new students? If so, this idea is a great way to do that.
No, the idea actually came about because of how much students like us worry about their studies.
Yeah, when I got into business school, there were a lot of things I had not prepared for, so the video would cover a lot of things Mark and I wish we had known upon entering business school.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
What would you talk about first?
The first and probably most important section would be academics.
Good idea. So, would you provide guidance on what courses to take?
We want to focus especially on the approaches professors take, their teaching methods. It is far different than what students are used to in high school and even in liberal arts college.
Good idea. And how long do you think you would spend explaining academics?
We'll probably spend 7 minutes on it.
We also have some ideas for talking about housing, food options and stuff like that. We're not really sure how to tie it all together though.
I think it would be suitable to title that section Accommodation. What do you think?
That could work. We'll definitely describe the different dining options at the cafeteria and then walk students through flats and the grueling process of finding one near the business school campus.
OK, so we would cover specifics on the cafeteria as well as flats.
I think those are both helpful. We could spend about 6 minutes on accommodation and be sure to touch on those specifically.
Great. Is there anything else you would talk about?
We definitely want to go over the social aspect of attending school here.
Of course. I think it's good to have a little fun once in a while when you're working so hard in school.
I think we are going to introduce new students to the disco that so many upper-class men know and love. Maybe we'll include a few other places too, but that's the main one.
We're also going to invite students to the international evening taking place in the first week of school as a great chance for our large international student population to meet a lot of other new students.
It can definitely be hard to meet people as an international student. I think that is a great idea. You may want to spend slightly longer on this section than the other two.
How about 8 minutes?
That sounds reasonable. So overall, the introduction should take 3 minutes and then the conclusion should take 4, giving us a total of 28 minutes.
I wouldn't rush your introduction. Maybe give it between 4 and 6 minutes. The conclusion, though, can be shorter since it's just a quick refresher of each of the topics. Give that not more than 2 minutes.
Okay, so in total, the video should take about the same time, just more intro and less conclusion?
Precisely.
All right, we're going to get to work on our video. Thanks for your help.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear a conversation between two students and their professor discussing an essay. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
For next week, I'd like you to undertake a piece of research in preparation for writing your final essay. In order to gain top marks, you must include a range of primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Are there any questions?
Yes, Professor, I have a question. We haven't yet covered how to undertake this sort of research in much depth, and I'm a little unsure of what you want us to do. In telling us to include primary sources, do you mean you want us to design and distribute a questionnaire, analysing the results?
You could design a questionnaire, but you'll soon find that distributing a questionnaire on such a large scale is somewhat troublesome. We couldn't possibly expect you to do it effectively as an individual university student without the necessary resources. No, ideally, I would like you to form 1 or 2 focus groups and interview them. This will provide you with a more qualitative approach. If your strengths lie in mathematics, please by all means take a more quantitative approach, but this will be more strenuous and time-consuming and isn't entirely necessary for the purpose of this study.
Professor, you haven't told us what our project is about. Do we get to choose our own topic based on the previous study?
No, I'm afraid not. This will be a strictly Australian study. However, you can choose which angle you'd like to take, so long as it remains within the realm of anthropology. Does anyone have any questions specifically about the formation of the focus groups? I'd had several emails about this, and I'd like to address it now.
My study is related to growing up in Australia and the question of nature versus nurture. I've gathered more than 200 school children who would be happy to participate in a focus group. Do you think we'll need to include that many participants in a focus group?
Blimey, Douglas, well done for finding that many willing children, but you definitely don't need that many for the study you're going to undertake. I'd say you need no more than 5 children per group, and no more than 3 groups, so 15 children altogether. You definitely need to control the group size in order to generate a meaningful dialogue.
OK, if it's useful, I'll try and do it.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the project, but there are plenty of different ways to gather data, and I'm sure that if you look hard enough, you'll find someone who has conducted almost the exact same research in the past. My advice for you is don't be too ambitious and try to include as much information about various people or sectors.
For those who haven't ever collected original data before, what do you suggest we do?
I would suggest that you read accounts from other people who have undertaken such research to see what advice they can give. I would also encourage you to read Chapter 8 in the course textbook, which should give you a good introduction to collecting data. Moreover, you should try to practice using the data table provided in your course handbook. By now, you should have read at least 6 or 7 books giving quite detailed instruction on how to go about collecting data.
Professor, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm having trouble reading the books. I had a really big assignment for another course, and I've been spending all my time on that. Jane, have you read all the books the professor mentioned?
Well, my trouble is getting hold of the books. I've been to the library several times, but all the books are out.
Sounds like you should have started borrowing books a bit earlier.
Yes, I should have. But I got several ones from my friend a couple of days ago. I just skimmed through them and don't remember a lot of the information.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
But now let's look at these things. We'll need to start thinking about which ones we'll definitely want to do for the project.
OK, the first one here is the final report.
If you like, we can work together on the research and data collection side of the project and doing the final write-up.
Cool. That sounds good. I'm not sure how much I'd be able to contribute considering I haven't had a chance to read the course material, but I should be able to prepare some sheets and a list of questions that can be used during the focus group sessions.
That sounds appropriate. I think so too.
Do you think we'll need to write a letter to send to the participants, telling them the time and place for the interviews?
Positive. I can take care of that.
Well, that's great.
I should also include a document for them to sign saying that they're happy to be voice recorded.
Oh yes, of course, I forgot about the transcript. That'll likely be a big job, so let's do half each. I'll do one of the groups and you can do the other, OK?
Sounds like a plan.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a talk on the research of the behaviour of chimpanzees. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Welcome back to my series of short lectures on apes. Today we will examine recent and historical breakthroughs on the behaviour of chimpanzees, otherwise known as chimps. The word chimpanzee is an umbrella term for two different species of apes in the genus Pan, which are the common chimpanzee or pan troglodytes found in West and Central Africa, and the bonobo, or Pan paniscus, which are found in the forests of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Chimpanzees belong to the Hominidae family, together with gorillas, orangutans, and indeed humans. Current research tells us that the chimps broke away from the human branch of the Hominidae family approximately 6 million years ago, and remain the closest living relative to humans to this day. More modern researchers into chimpanzees have centered on their behavioral characteristics, once all biological and genetic factors have been ruled out. In this way, scientists have unearthed an unfathomable amount of similarities between human and chimpanzee behavior. Although much of this research has taken place through observation of captive chimps, the results are widely seen as an authoritative reflection of chimps living in the wild. Chimps live in large so-called communities comprised of many male and female members, with the social hierarchy determined by an individual chimp's position and influence. Through such research, scientists have found that chimps learn and adapt through observation of others' behavior. Once in power, the alpha male is often seen to alter its body language in order to retain power. For example, he might puff himself up in order to intimidate others, while lower-ranking chimps are noted to behave more submissively and holding out their hands while grunting. Female chimpanzees also have a distinct social hierarchy, with high social standing inherited by children. It is not unheard of for dominant females within a community to unite and overthrow the alpha male, backing another in his place. James Diamond, in his book The Third Chimpanzee, suggests that chimps should now be reclassified in the genus Homo instead of Pan, and there are many arguments still in favor of this. Male common chimpanzees are, on average, 1.7 meters in height, weighing 70 kilograms, with their female counterparts being somewhat smaller. By comparison, the bonobo is slightly shorter and lighter, but with longer arms and legs. However, both species walk on all fours and climb trees with great ease. Jane Goodall made a groundbreaking discovery in 1960 when she observed the use of tools among chimpanzees, including digging for termites with large sticks. A recent study claimed to reveal that common chimpanzees in Senegal have been using spears sharpened with their teeth to hunt. However, these reports remain unsubstantiated. Researchers have witnessed such tools, namely rocks, being used by chimps to open coconut shells, and indeed crushing nuts with stone hammers. As scientific technology has developed, so too has our knowledge of the sheer extent of the chimp's intelligence. Research has now shown that chimps have the capability to learn and use symbols, and understand aspects of the human language, including syntax, as well as numerical sequences. As I mentioned earlier, the umbrella term chimpanzee is comprised of the common chimpanzee and the bonobo. These two subspecies are divided along the Congo River, with the common chimps living on one side and the bonobos living on the opposite side of the river. Over the past few decades, both of these subspecies have witnessed an alarming decrease in population density, with animal activists now working harder than ever to protect those remaining and encourage procreation. In addition, next week's episode will focus more closely on how chimpanzees in captivity are able to learn things through imitating the behavior of humans, as well as how chimpanzees' behaviors have developed over many generations. Thank you very much for attending this evening's lecture. I hope you found it intellectually stimulating, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Good night.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test.